This movie stressed me out the whole entire time. Because I tell you, they finding clues, they find this, they find that. I'm like, okay, they finna escape. And everything just getting worse. I'm talking about all the houses look the same. There ain't no exit. The baby screaming. Gemma barking. And Tom just digging. What the hell is going on? In the beginning of the movie, I would just say first, like judging based off of the cover of the movie, I was like, okay, the house, what is that? And it was funny because I was over here noting everything down, and the movie seemed chill. Now that classroom, well, with no black kids up in there. Let's talk about that. It seemed like, was there any black people in the movie? Vivarium, you're racist? But okay, but yeah, I was like, the classroom looked chill. I'm happy I had noted down on here the thing with the bird. We're gonna dive into that with the themes and stuff, but the bird, I knew it was something important until later, so I'm happy I had noted that down. But yeah, everything had just looked chill or whatever. I knew Martin was up to something because, like,
look. Good. We're all happy then.
his body movements were just so weird. And then I think I remember him like mocking Jim or whatever. I remember when they first like came in, they're like, oh, you know, we're renting a house, he gonna get up, and he was just standing like he was looking like a Slenderman the whole time. I'm like, what is going on with him? And it wasn't until they had started driving into like the neighborhood is when I feel like that's when the eeriness kind of started, because like I said, it just kind of gave like, you know, cute little couple, she's working, she's a teacher, like everything was chill. That's why I was like, okay, like, okay, Vivarium, what's going on? And everything has seemed chill, but I think it definitely when they went to the neighborhood, that's when it started being eerie, because I'm like, okay, like, where the like I didn't realize it till after the movie. I was like, there wasn't no neighbors when they first drove in. Like, it literally wasn't nothing. Even when they were driving up, like Martin was just moving too weird. Like I knew Martin was up to something. I knew it was up to no good, and I wish they would have caught on sooner. But yeah, I was just like, it had started off chill, and then everything went to hell. And then to go into like the psychological part of it, because I love psychological thrillers, so I had put on here like I love it, and I know, and y'all let me know if y'all like it. I mean, I know it's like a reoccurring, I guess, like idea or structure, but I love a paradox type movie where it's like, if you watch like Coherence or like Coherence was one of them, or like Vivarium, like I love movies that it's like a paradox, like even it's like the mystery part of like, okay, how do we escape this, but then the thriller, because it's always like maybe like something scary or like a creature or something happening, or like them, you know, how the days were counting down, you know. At first I thought they was gonna like start running out of food, but you know, like stuff just be happening. So I had put them there like, I love the paradox, and then I feel like it's interesting because as the viewer, when it's a paradox, you know it's a paradox, you assume that the characters will survive. I think that was the part that had got me, because like the whole time I'm like, okay, they got the box, they got the food, he's digging, they got the alien book. I was like, okay, they're finding the clues, they're gonna escape. I really didn't expect them to die, so I feel like that's such a, it's definitely a very interesting like way to like write a movie and structure, because it's like, I feel like as a viewer you start getting tied to the characters emotionally, like especially when Tom was starting to get sick, and then Gemma, you know, she was struggling the whole time. I thought like even her dying from the creature, and then it was the fact that like she was trying to protect him in the beginning, so it's like I've really felt for her, and then I was like, dang, they both really died, and then it just keeps going. So I always feel like in paradox movies, like that's so interesting, because it's like you really don't know if they're going to survive or not until the end. And then for the second thing I put about I like the idea of like how isolation was really used, I guess psychologically once again, because I feel like certain people, like I feel like it'd always be funny when people would be like, oh, you know, I love being alone, I like being by myself, but then it's like if it's just you and another person all by yourself, like it would eventually, like you would literally eventually go insane. And I like how they did that, because it was the fact that like even when they were trying to escape, they kept trying to go to circles, or when they were trying to, you know, they were trying to drive and stuff. Like I think the idea of isolation was very interesting, because even I think I had put it on here, but like even how like Gemma and Tom, they end up starting getting to each other, because it's like you gotta think like they're the only two people in their space. And so like I said, that's why I find these movies so interesting, because it's like they were a couple and all this stuff in the beginning, and then towards the end it was almost like, you know, like he wasn't even sleeping with her no more. So that's why I'm like, it was really interesting to see how like the the idea of isolation really had toward their relationship. And then also, I like the idea of how they had brought the kid, because I added that too. It was like they were alone, but even with the kid, it still made them feel additionally isolated because like they weren't like attracted to the kid. And I remember online they were saying like this idea of like parenthood and stuff. And I feel like even necessarily you could put this in like a real life perspective when, you know, people don't want to have kids, they want kids, or you know, say they have a kid and they want to like, I don't know if you can say the A word, but like terminate the pregnancy and stuff. And I feel like it's so interesting because, you know, people are always like, you know, take care of the baby, take care of the kid, put the kid first. But then I feel like in this instance, it was also really interesting because it was like a kid was thrown at them. And then once again, I feel like that is what added the split because Tom couldn't stand that little creature. But then Gemma, you know, she was loving it. It was like her motherly instinct. And so that was another thing too. I feel like the idea of parenthood is like, that's why it can't necessarily be forced upon people because it's like, you know, the child needed to be taken care of, but like they were literally like rejecting it. So I thought that was interesting. It was the same thing, like the screaming, like that would have made me hate the kid as well. Even the idea of the routine, I was like, they were doing the same eating, digging, searching, raising the kid, eating the same food, and it's like I said, it was just weird because it's like I know psychologically like our brains love structure, our brains love patterns, our brain love habits, but the whole time it was like a negative habit the whole entire time. And so I have felt that whole thing was just super duper interesting. I even put on here the idea of like helplessness because, you know, I guess helplessness and isolation would go to the same because there was literally no escape. And I don't even think like, yeah, I feel like there was no escape. Like, I know they said to raise a child, but it's like the child is the one that almost got them killed, you know, since it was pushing them away. And then it was just many things with the psychological aspect. Same thing with To Go to Birds. I remember someone said that online as well, like how like birds are usually like in a bird cage, and it's like they were like the birds in a cage because, you know, they're getting fed but they necessarily can't escape. So that's why I was like, I feel like the psychological aspect, it was very, very interesting with like the isolation, the relationships, you know, the paradox. Like there's just so many interesting takes on here. It's a psychological thriller, of course, but it's like just the different elements I really love. And then the last thing I wanted to add too, like I said, it was just funny because it was like people are sending them supplies, they have the kid, but both Gemma and Tom both felt isolated in their own way and they felt alone additionally, which I find is crazy because it's like you expect that when you're around people to not feel alone. So that's why I was like, how they were able to, like I said, it was just an interesting way how they were able to write it as like they're all three in their house as like keeping each other company, but all three of them are rejecting each other, and they're making it like they're emphasizing the idea of like isolation and being alone, being by yourself, being in their own house. Even the fact that like when they tried to burn the house, I was like, whoa, like there's truly no escape. Like it was just a crazy movie, bro, just crazy. And so I'll put the symbolism of the bird on here, but I was happy I had screenshotted it because I knew the bird meant something. Like, I don't know, psychological thrillers, that's how they get you. It's always the easy details you don't pay attention to, so I knew that was important. I also noted that their house had the number 9 on it, and I think I also put that on Google, but I think it was because it was like, you know, they said Gemma was pregnant at the time, so that was like the 9 months of like raising a kid. Same thing as like the kid was younger, then he became an adult. And then I also put on here my favorite things I love with movies where they are very intentional with colors. I feel like colors is such a great film element and how it conveys a certain emotion, how it conveys a setting, how it conveys a plot, just overall the emotion. Because like, for example, when it's like horror movies, you know, it's like blood and all that stuff, and that depicts like red, it's a darker color. Or like if it's ghost, a scary movie, it's like, you know, black, darker elements. And that's why I would just say that this movie was such a play on just a lot of things, because like I remember saying that like I remember Martin had blue eyes. I think their car or their house, they had blue in it. You know, all the houses were green. And like I said, I feel like it was such a contradictory of like the elements, because when you think of like the color blue, you think about the color green, it's like makes you safe. Like, of course, if you were to walk into a room and it's painted yellow, you're going to feel a little bit more, you know, safe, happy. Yellow represents, you know, whatever it represents for you. But it's like if you were to walk into a room and it's completely black, or like you walk into darkness, you're going to feel like a sense of unease, of danger. And so that's why I thought was the funny part because, like I said, the houses are green, it's blue, and all those colors like represent safety. But that's what I'm saying. It was like they were unsafe the whole time. And then I also put there was a splash of yellow sometimes. Like I think the where they had the champagne, that was like a splash of yellow. So that's what I'm saying. It was still like positive elements, positive colors, but they were in a doom, stuck, danger, scary, weird, eerie situation. So I love how they do that. Even when when she was like slipping through the floor, it was the same thing. There was colors of blue, there was colors of green, and then once again, that was the only time where we saw the color red. So like I said, I just find that so interesting. Even in the beginning when the movie first turned on, it was like white and stuff. So I remember the classroom was like white, it was a light of white elements. So it was just like I said, it was like the colors created that sense of peace. When if y'all watch the movie, it was no type of peace going on. So that's why I love how movies use colors. And to go back to the idea of parenthood, it was the same thing of like the idea of like child neglect. When Tom put her in the car and Gemma felt so bad. I even thought about it too when it was so interesting because she was like, I'm not your mother. But like I said, the kid is like clinging to her. Even when he had locked them out, I'm like, this guy is just like, he's like a bad child. And so that's why I was saying, just to also go back, it was just very interesting because like I said, Gemma, she had that motherly instinct to, because I feel like that always happens like in times where there's like broken homes and stuff. It's like, it's always that dad leaves and goes just as other thing, like Tom was digging, but she was taking care of him, having that motherly instinct. So that just kind of goes back to like the number 9, pregnancy, and the whole childhood thing. And I also appreciated the idea of like the sci-fi part because I feel like the sci-fi part really added to the paradox part because I had wrote on here as well, like when he had found that book and then he was talking in certain languages. Like I remember his throat was expanding. I was like, what am I watching? And then the TV and stuff. So that's why I was like, I thought it was like aliens were feeding them and stuff. Like I thought, that's why I was like, I thought they were going to escape because I was like, okay, maybe she'll get the book, she'll read something, she'll understand something. And I'm like, girl, no, like she still died. I even found it crazy too. Like it was one part where she had that axe, or what did she have? And she swung at the back of that man's head. I was like, girl, hit him. And that boy started contorting, crawling on the ground. I said, so girl, what am I watching? What is this? Vivarium, what's going on here? So that was even cool. I put it on here too. It was like, if y'all watched, I was going to say Jeepers Creepers, not Jeepers Creatures, but Beetlejuice. Like how the houses in there used to be all like contorted and stuff. So that's why I found it was such an interesting element. And there's, like I said, the idea of just a paradox and a cycle, because even when they had died, he had threw their body in the thing, and it had just grown over. I was like, oh my god, like the cycle really just continues. And even when he dug and he had found somebody dead, so I was like, eventually, like their bodies would break down, decay, and they would be that same person he found. And so I was like, wow, and like. I was like, wow, like, it just keeps going. But I really thought that they were going to survive, especially, like I said, with the sci-fi part. I thought they were going to be able to figure out, like, the book, what it was saying on the TV. I definitely, y'all let me know, did y'all think they were going to escape? I really didn't think that they were going to die. But that's what I was saying, too. It was like I got emotional attached to the characters, and then they died. So now it's like that conflicting idea within the movie. Like, I love psychological thrillers, man. Like, I could watch this all day. Like, I just love them. Like, psychological thrillers, bro, they're so good. Like, they're so good. And I got more on the way. And then for another element, too, I had put, like, insanity and the loss of time. Because for me, it also, like, I feel like it didn't seem like I wouldn't say the movie was long, but it didn't seem like the characters in the plot, it was as long until the kid like he was growing up. And so I found that interesting. Like I said, it's just so many different things because it was like, Tom, he was getting weak, he's starting to get tired, dehydrated. So it's like their life, like they're getting older and then dying, but then it's like the rebirth effect or whatever, or like how the birds and the thing I had put in the beginning, because like I said, it was like, it's like I said, it was just a cycle of life. Like it was so many things because it's like Gemma and them are getting older and then they ended up dying, but he was like younger and you know, he was growing, you know what I mean, just how the circle of life too. And then like I said, the idea of insanity, because like I remember Gemma at some point, she just started barking. I was like, girl, I know she don't got nothing else to do, so she just barking, trying to, you know, connect to the child and stuff. So that's why I was like, it was just so crazy. Like I like looking back and filming this now, I'm like, I still feel so bad because I really wanted them to escape. Like, was that just me? Like, I genuinely thought they were gonna escape and make it out of this like paradox, but I really thought. And then for my ending reaction, definitely, like I said, I was so hyped when she came across that corner and hit that boy in the head. He said, ah, and then he started crawling. I was like, my jaw dropped because I said, ain't no way he just pulled up the sidewalk. So what's really going on here? And then, like I said, her slipping through the floor and all this stuff. And that was my thing, too. I thought what was going to happen, I thought she was, like, slipping through previous... Well, she was slipping through, like, previous, I guess, people. But I thought that was my other thing, too. I kept checking the time of the movie because I'm like, wait, we got 30 minutes left, like 10 minutes. Like, what's she going to do? But I thought that's what it was going to be. I thought she was going to, like, slip into somebody. And then... they explained to her, like, I guess, like, how to escape or something, or like maybe somebody else was like stuck in that form of the paradox, you know what I mean? Because I know that happens in movies where it's like somebody would be stuck in a timeline, they would give somebody else advice to get out of the timeline, but like they can't leave or whatever. So I thought it was gonna be like that. I thought somebody in those like memories and stuff was gonna show up. But and like I said, I also think that was interesting too, because I remember, I think they showed a man, he had, I don't know if I can say it on YouTube, but he had like, and I found, like I said, I'm not gonna say I found that cool, but like I said, once again, I remember the room, it was blue, so that's why I'm like, it was just like how they were using colors was so interesting, because it's like blue creates a sense of safety when it's like someone had passed away, you know what I mean? It was just so much things. But yeah, I had really liked it. I thought the cycles were good. I would give it, I think, 8.5 out of 10. I had really liked it. Yeah, it was a great movie, great psychological thriller. Like, I have no complaints. It was way better than I expected. But yeah, overall, especially when they had showed the other people coming in there, I was like, dang, like the cycle really just continues. Like, but it was a great movie. If y'all watched it, it's a very old movie, so y'all let me know. I got a lot more psychological thrillers on the way, but you know, I've been working, so I've been a little busy. But y'all let me know down below any psychological thrillers, any movies you want me to watch, any movies y'all want me to watch. But yeah, hopefully this review wasn't too short. That's all that I was really talking about, was just the ending, the psychological elements, the theories. As soon as I finished watching the movie, I had to do a TikTok deep dive immediately, and that's what the parts that I put in the beginning. But yeah, let me know if y'all like the reviews. Sorry, I know if we can't vlog as much, but I got exciting news on the way after this. I got something very, very exciting coming, so y'all just continue to look at, continue to support, continue to subscribe. And yeah, I can't wait to see y'all in the next video. Continue to like, comment, subscribe. Road to 700 subs, really road to 1K, and I cannot wait to see y'all in the next video.